Hello and welcome to Do I Like It, a show where I dig through the content rabbit hole and help you make sense of culture. और इस एपिसोड में we'll talk about some of my favorite alternate endings in cinema. अब देखो यार, a good climax makes or breaks our experience of watching a movie. It's the final taste in our mouth when we leave the theater. But you know what's better than one climax? Two. So let's go through some films which earlier had a different ending, why it was changed, and what it tells us about filmmaking as a craft. Since I'm going to be talking about some film climaxes, a spoiler alert is in effect. For this episode, I'm only talking about endings that were actually short but changed later. So, Khosla Ka Khosla, the ending where Khurana wins, or Interstellar with the world ending, all of that doesn't count. But सबसे पहले, let's try and understand कि यार एक ending change करने से picture पे फर्क क्या पड़ता है. Common sense would dictate that the perception of a film shouldn't change much by changing just one out of hundreds of shots, right? But when those shots are closing the film, it matters. And that's the difference between deleted scenes and alternate endings. Usually deleted scenes movie के बीच में कहीं होते हैं and they are edited out to make the film more gripping or to mask some structural and logical loopholes. And those deletions don't impact the overall perception of the film. I mean, sure, this deleted scene from Raman Raghav would give us more context about Raghav's childhood, but यार film मुझे कैसी लगी इस पे इसका इतना effect नहीं है. But now imagine अगर end में राघवन की जगह रमन्ना उस आई विटनेस का मर्डर करता, तो भाई डायरेक्टर जो बात बोलना चाह रहा है that it is an innate human desire to kill, वो चीज़ ही कन्वे नहीं होती. तो यार लास्ट के ना 1-2 मिनट्स एक पिक्चर में बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होते हैं. And to understand this, the first alternate ending I want to talk about is something that has become a stuff of legend in Hindi cinema. I'm talking about the climax of Ramesh Sippy's Sholay, an ending that was changed due to an interference by the then censor board. अब पिक्चर में जय के मरने तक nothing changes, but after Jay sacrifices himself with the two-sided coin, वीरू गुस्से में गब्बर को पीट रहा है और अचानक से ठाकुर आता है and he says, गब्बर मुझे जिंदा चाहिए, तुम्हारे दोस्त ने मुझे वादा किया था. तो ठाकुर गब्बर से लड़ने लग जाता है एंड गब्बर इज लाइक तू कैसे लड़ेगा, तेरे तो हाथ काट के फेंक चुका हूं मैं. एंड देन ठाकुर इज लाइक सांप को हाथ से नहीं पैर से मारा जाता है. एक तो भाई क्या मस्त डायलॉग्स है इसके. बट यस, ठाकुर एंड गब्बर गेट इनटू अ फाइट एंड ठाकुर यूजेस द स्पाइक्स इन हिज शूज टू इंजर हिम. एंड एट दिस पॉइंट बोथ ठाकुर एंड गब्बर कांट यूज देयर आर्म्स, सो दे हैव टू फाइट विद देयर लेग्स. सो इट्स काइंड ऑफ अ लेवल प्लेइंग फील्ड. अब यहां तक सब कुछ सेम है. नाउ इन द एंडिंग दैट वी ऑल सी, Thakur is just about to kill Gabbar and suddenly the police come and says मुजरिम को सजा देना कानून का काम है. Gabbar is then handed over to the cops. The film ends with Jay's funeral and Veeru and Basanti leave Ramgarh. It's a happy/sad way to close such an epic film. It would have been a fine climax अगर हमें दूसरी ending का पता ही ना चलता. Because in the original ending they shot, Gabbar is standing in front of a nail, which by the way is the same nail he used when he cut Thakur's hand. And he goes ahead and kills Gabbar with the same nail. He gets his revenge. Veeru उसका शॉल उठा के उसे पहनाता है and Thakur breaks down and hugs Veeru as if to say, dude we won, but at what cost? तुम देख रहे हो कितना पोएटिक है ये. ठाकुर को अपना रिवेंज मिल गया, but did his family come back? Will Jay ever come back? Was all this violence worth it? In 2018 at the Pune International Film Festival, Ramesh Sippy revealed that censor board had asked him to change the ending because they didn't want to show a policeman killing a villain. They also found it too violent. Now, this police wali ending was the one that played in the film for over 15 years. But the alternate ending has seen a separate fan base, with people preferring this contemplative ending over a more straightforward one. So in 1990, the uncensored cut was released for Britain on VHS, which also included a scene of Abdul getting killed. And if you're asking me, bhai, mujhe to alternate ending zyada pasand hai. Every time I think of Sholay being this great classic film, the visual of Thakur killing Gabbar comes to mind. The second film I want to talk about is a 90s American film. If you're a hip-hop head, you know what I'm talking about. Juice, starring Tupac Shakur and Omar Epps. It was a 1992 crime thriller that has become a cult classic over the years. It's also one of Tupac's best performances. तो भाई ये पिक्चर नहीं देखी तो जरूर देख के आओ. But let me quickly take you through the film. 4 दोस्त हैं, Bishop, Q, Raheem और Steele. They're young African Americans living life in the streets of Harlem. To escape police harassment and gang violence, Bishop one day decides that they need to be in the game to survive. They want to enter a life of crime to get juice or respect from the streets. They decide to rob a grocery store and in the heat of the moment, Bishop shoots the owner. और भाई ये लोग बच्चे हैं and they are suddenly embroiled in this mess. Things happen and Bishop starts enjoying this newfound power that a gun gives him. He kills more people और अब फिल्म के क्लाइमैक्स में a chase is happening between Q and Bishop और भाई लास्ट सीन में बिशप इज हैंगिंग फ्रॉम अ रूफ ऑफ अ बिल्डिंग विद क्यू होल्डिंग हिज हैंड, द क्लासिक सेव मी और लेट मी फॉल वाला मोमेंट. इन हिज फाइनल सेकंड्स बिशप फॉरगेट्स दिस बीफ एंड प्लीड्स फॉर क्यू टू सेव हिम. ही सेज क्यू डोंट लेट मी गो. Q also tries to save his friend obviously, right? अब जो एंडिंग रिलीज हुई उसमें Q गलती से loses his grip and Bishop falls and dies. Now, even when I had first watched the film, I thought it was a very blah way of closing such a gripping crescendo. But when I found out that director Ernest Dickerson had shot another ending, I was interested. And dude, it makes so much more sense. सब कुछ सेम चल रहा है, the chase is going on and Bishop is about to fall. Q catches him and Bishop is saying, bro don't leave me. Q also wants to save him. He's trying his hardest to hold on to his brother. But पीछे से a police siren is heard and Bishop says, I ain't going to jail man, and leaves his hand. Bro, when I first saw that, I got goosebumps. Through the film, you'll see that Bishop's father too had gone to prison, and seeing his condition, Bishop would rather die than to live a life like that. That gives Bishop so much more personality. You realize कि भाई उसने लाइफ में कितना कुछ देखा होगा. And it also talks about how Bishop is a victim of his circumstances. He would rather kill himself than be a part of the American prison industrial complex. तुम देख रहे हो कितनी political जा रही है इतनी छोटी सी चीज. But that ending reportedly did poorly with test audiences. They instead wanted Q to shoot Bishop. The film's director told Black Thought at a Q&A that Hollywood politics had changed the ending of the film. The producers allegedly told the makers to change the ending or else they would not support the film. Another example of corporate intervention and focus groups meddling with the director's vision. Bhai, test audience had a problem with Q throwing away his gun in the river. Bro, that was the whole point of the film. कि देखो personal dynamics कितने change हो जाते हैं when a gun gets involved. This just goes to show कि एक डायरेक्टर के फिल्म मेकिंग डिसीजंस कितने अलग अलग फैक्टर्स पे निर्भर करते हैं, and some of which don't even have anything to do with cinema. Now the next film I want to talk about is a childhood favorite. I might have seen this film tens of times on TV, but start से end तक अभी 2-3 साल पहले ही देखी है मैंने. Great fun. I'm talking about Vipul Amrutlal Shah's Aankhen. I've always thought that ये पिक्चर किसी हॉलीवुड फिल्म की तो कॉपी होगी. Some people even compared it to the 1978 film Blind Rage. But bhai, it's an original screenplay based on Vipul Shah's own Gujarati play. He did get inspired from 1972's Doberman Gang, where 6 dogs rob a bank, but that was about it. Dude, I'm telling you, more people should adapt plays to films. Oh my god, Golmaal, Katha, you just can't go wrong. But yes, even this film, Aankhen, had an alternate ending. After Ilyas is killed by Vijay Rajput, Vishwas and Arjun surrender to the inspector, who doesn't obviously believe that 3 blind men have robbed a bank. Rajput accidentally confesses to the robbery plot and gets arrested by the cops. Vishwas and Arjun then take care of Neha's brother, and in the end they find the money in Ilyas ka harmonium. Picture khatam. But in the original ending, which was shown for overseas audiences, Vijay Rajput bribes the cops, gets out, and just as Vishwas and Arjun are leaving the city, Vishwas senses कि भाई Rajput कहीं पे तो है, and the film ends on a cliffhanger with Amitabh Bachchan saying a dangerous game is about to begin in his scary baritone voice. Now, not the best way to close a thriller if you compare it to today's writing standards, but bhai, the 10-year-old me would have flipped the ending देख के. Director Vipul Amrutlal Shah told Midday that at a trial screening, some intelligent people thought कि already इतना नया concept है तो उसके ऊपर से open ending समझ नहीं आएगी. Again, इतनी cool ending got ruined by a trial screening. और भाई एक चीज मेरे को समझ नहीं आती, ओवरसीज ऑडियंस के लिए स्मार्ट एंडिंग वो लोग समझ जाएंगे, बट हम लोग नहीं समझ पाएंगे क्लिफ हैंगर. क्या कॉन्डिसेंडिंग चीज है भाई. बाय द वे, फन फैक्ट, आतिश कपाड़िया, द राइटर ऑफ आंखें, वाज द सेम गाय हु रोट खिचड़ी एंड सारा भाई वर्सेस सारा भाई. ही आल्सो प्लेड कच्चा केला इन सारा भाई. बड़ा ओजी आदमी है, यू शुड चेक आउट हिज वर्क. Now, usually when we talk about alternate endings, the ending that stays unreleased is said to be the better one, right? Because it's the director's original unaltered vision. But in this case, I actually like the fact that they changed this ending. I'm talking about the 2006 film Rang De Basanti, directed by Rakeysh, Omprakash, Mehra. अब भाई इस पिक्चर के बारे में जितना बोल लो कम है. This film really set new standards when it comes to filmmaking. The way it was edited, the blurry and shaky shots driving home the fact that ये carefree लोग हैं भाई. Also, it was very instrumental in igniting a sense of rebellion in the youth of that time. Even today, ये picture जब मैं देखता हूँ तो मेरा किसी protest पे जाने का मन करता है. But did you know that this film was supposed to end differently? In some initial draft of the script, the guys, after killing the defense minister, run away and eventually get shot at different places. So सब पकड़े जाते हैं. But then Aamir Khan once asked Rakesh, Omprakash, Mehra कि यार why do these guys have to run away? उन्होंने कुछ गलत थोड़ी किया है. And then they wrote the radio station wala scene, which was from a story Aamir Khan had written some years back. But I'm not talking about that ending. Even after they get shot at the radio station, there was a tiny difference in the way the film closed. In the original ending, DJ और Sid के गोली लगने के बाद, you see bodies of these men being carried out of the radio station. The voiceover, I'd always believe there are two types of men. वो पीछे से चल रहा है. Hundreds of people gather and carry their body away. The same way these guys were carrying Ajay ka body in the club. The guys become martyrs, and that is literally shown on screen. But about 1 week before the release on 26 January, the director showed the film to some young test audiences and they kept asking, why do the guys have to die? अब हर director की तरह उसे भी लगा होगा कि भाई ये मेरा vision क्यों नहीं समझ रहे. But then they regrouped and they made the death of these guys more metaphorical. The film now ends with the frozen faces of Sid and DJ laughing as gunshots are heard in the background. So हमें पता चल गया कि वो मर गए. But then we are shown some reactions of young students from all around the country, hailing these men and demanding a change. And dude, it was such a tearjerker. When that guy said sending commandos is the death of democracy, oof. And Rahman's score just makes it better, obviously. And then we see the guys looking at the next crop, a young Bhagat Singh who's planting a tree with his father. The father knows that he probably won't be around to eat the fruits of that tree, but it's the next generation that is being nurtured. Just perfect. About the old ending, the director reportedly said कि मैंने आग जलाई थी, but उसको फैलने नहीं दिया. And I don't think anyone could have summed this thing up better. Also, this is my advice to any writers out there as a film fan. Whenever you have an option to make the ending less literal and more implied, just do it! पब्लिक समझ जाएगी और तुम्हारा क्लाइमैक्स भाई कभी दिमाग से नहीं जाएगा. हर चीज स्पेल आउट मत करो, थोड़ा हमें भी सोचने दो ना. But yeah, I think Rang De Basanti was one of the few alternate endings where I was glad that a trial show was held to make this amazing film even better. Sometime in the future, I'm going to make a list of perfect films, and Rang De Basanti would definitely be on the list. Also, fun fact, do you see in this scene where Sue is trying to go past the crowd? Look at this guy. If you know who this is, write it down in the comments. And now let us talk about my favorite film with an alternate ending. A film जिसकी दोनों endings मुझे equally पसंद है. And whichever ending you watch changes your mood after watching the film. Trust me, I've tried. I'm talking about Jordan Peterson's 2017 social horror Get Out. Dude, it's one of the best films of this decade. Must watch. A quick rundown of the film. Chris is a black man who's dating Rose, and they travel to Rose's parents for a weekend, jahan pe things go south. Rose's family does this thing where they take the bodies of black people and swap their brains with their consciousness. They then auction these bodies to their rich white friends, either for an athletic advantage or even worse, a bigger penis. Now in one of the endings that was scripted, Chris's brain gets transplanted, and when Rod goes looking for him, he's not able to recognize him, just like pehle Chris ke saath hua tha. But that's not the ending that was shot. In the ending that was shot, just as Chris is killing Rose, the cops show up and they arrest him, because duh. And later, Rod goes to meet Chris in prison and he's trying to ask him questions ki bhai hua kya? But he can't remember anything because he was hypnotized. And then he lets it go, sort of accepts his fate ki yaar chalo theek hai, at least I stood up this time and I didn't freeze, just as he did when his mother was dying. And as he gets up to leave, we see a black man behind him on the phone and one person behind him telling us that yaar unki bhi shayad yahi story hogi. Now, while this would have been a much more realistic end to the story, it's depressing here. And I think that's what even the makers felt. Because sometime before the release, they reshot the scene where Chris is killing Rose, and instead of the cops coming, Rod comes looking for him. Because, you know, he's TSA and the guys get saved. Jordan Peele said that this ending was changed because by the time he finished writing and rewriting the script, the world had changed. Race was being talked about and organizations like the Black Lives Matter became an important part of the culture. So I'm happy that they went with this hero's journey. And yes, these were some of my favorite alternate endings in cinema. As a film fan, I get really excited when any deleted scene or behind the scenes stuff gets released. It gets me closer to the filmmaking process. I think the best way to learn how to appreciate films is by reading the screenplay of the films you love. Because you get so much context about some ideas जो filmmaker के दिमाग में थे but they later got changed. But यार तुम बताओ तुम्हें शोले, रंग दे बसंती और गेट आउट की कौन सी एंडिंग बेटर लगी? As always, the conversation continues in the comments below. This was Prateek and I'll see you in the next one.